He was in
He's not been doing well.
No. All right, we're back. We're not back in session. We are in session. This is our regular Tuesday morning meeting. I don't see any changes to the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the agenda as posted.
Motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. How come Chantel isn't there?
I know it's weird, right?
Something is wrong with the agenda.
That is it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a disturbance in the force.
There was a disturbance in the force.
You know what?
We did.
I'm going to take a picture of the empty seat and later I'll send it to her.
All right, Christy, you're up first.
Okay. The agenda says that I'm only going to do budget to actual revenue, but I'm going to do revenue and expenditures, because that's what the statute requires. You guys should have received this in your packets, or separately. They're this thick each.
Yeah, we did.
So-
I didn't see it.
I have not seen
Christy
it.
should have emailed it. I sent it last week.
Okay.
I thought I saw something, but I don't know if I looked at it.
If it was last week, I may have just.
Well, I'm going to run through and hit highlights.
Okay,
great.
So,
Thank you.
Unless you want to see it again, the highlights are most important. We'll start with the revenue side. I need a pen to talk, sorry. Start with the revenue side. Most revenues look really good. We're at about 90% on most of them. That will look a little bit distorted just simply because of the quarterlies that we get. That increases the percentage. But we're on track to make revenue in most all of our departments. I have a couple troublesome departments that I'm just a little concerned about, but we'll continue to watch. That's Parks and Rec. I don't think we're going to make revenue, but part of that's going to be distorted because we put in $200,000 in concessions, and that was just revenue to match expenditures. That one's just kind of an anomaly. I don't even know what to say about it, other than we're not going to make that $200,000. But also other revenues, I'm not sure we're really going to hit there either. But because of the seasonal nature of it, we'll have to see. So we'll continue to monitor that one. Waterways is really weird this year. We've only received $5,200. And we budgeted, $9,900, and we budgeted $25,000. That one is.
That's bizarre.
That's really low.
It is really low.
Kind of like
and
the lakes. They're really low.
Maybe that's why.
That's a bad joke, sorry.
So that one.
So is that one where the
Licenses.
where the state now takes their share,
No.
like
shouldn't be.
drivers?
It shouldn't be. This is
Okay.
this is a totally different fund, and the revenues come in just through licenses, and we get monthly money. So what I might do is just when we're at clerks conference, follow up with some of the other clerks and see what they're seeing. The other thing I can do is look. We do a annual reporting on those. I can get a hold of that lady. It's Kelly Joyce, if I remember right. I may email her and talk to her and see if anybody else is seeing it or if it's just us. And then I wanted to talk about landfill only because the $1.7 million that we had discussed prior, where I needed to come up with extra revenue to cover that contract. We are still on track to do so. Right now we have exceeded revenue budget by $670,000.
Wow.
So I'll continue to monitor that. This is as of June. So what I'll do is I'll run a report through July because I really want to get the budget open so that we can move on.
Cool.
But I can't until we have all that money, so it might be August before we do it. But I'll continue to monitor that. So that's revenues.
Okay.
Expenditures. The report I ran and emailed you was through June, but then the one I'm going to talk off of is actually through July 19th because I figured more current information would be better.
Yeah.
The first item we're going to breeze through is the coroner because that one was one where we had added budget authority from
40 to 80?
on their, wrong page, sorry, on the,
Autopsies? On the autopsies?
yeah, autopsies, on the professional services. So it went from 44 to 84. That line item still has 26,000 left. They're looking good. They're at 76% spent. If I run through 719, budgets should be at about 80% spent. So right now, he's overall on operating 76. So he should be fine finishing out the year unless we have a rash of autopsies.
Can I just say, in this last week, at my conference, they put a map on the wall for opioid deaths across the country, and they had kind of a heat map, and we were the only red spot in Idaho as being a hot spot. So you have a large portion of red spots on the east coast, then the further west you go, it gets a little bit lighter and stuff, but in Idaho, we were the one red spot down in the southeast corner. I kind of hung my head a little low, and felt bad about things.
Let's see, so county operations shows that it is only 28.6% spent, but that's because we've got that 1.5 million in there for litigation as a placeholder. That's going to skew actual operations.
If you take that out, where are we?
I did not do that.
Okay.
I did that on some, but not that one.
Okay.
Sorry. IT is at 95%, so I'll be
We're going to be talking to you today.
and tell them to kind of,
We don't need anything else.
we're good.
That's a good answer.
Planning and zoning is at only 26% spent, but it looks like they haven't paid for their software of $56,000. So I'll follow up and see why not, because I know they had the City Works $33,000 that they were supposed to pay.
Right.
I don't show that paid, so I need to do a little bit more research on it. We get into the sheriff's budget and their fuel. They show 28,000 left, but we have a rebill through the end of the month where they got to pay 41. So that puts them about 13,000 in the hole, and they've got 2 months left. I have a plan to find monies for that. I've already got a couple options that can cover that if they need it. But operating-wise, their operating budget's at 55%. So they may or may not need it.
Did you look at, or are you going to get to landfill fuel as well?
I will.
Okay.
And I skipped Road and Bridge. Road and Bridge is at 60% spent. Their fuel is 90,000 in the hole, but with that rebuild, that's going to add back 112. So that gives them 22,000 for the rest of the year. But where they're only 60% spent, and we should be at about 80, they may make it. But this is also their busy time, and they've got road oil being spent. So I also have an option for that one. We received some of the state monies that was anticipated that we could open the budget for
Okay.
if we need to. So I'll continue to monitor both of those budgets with the department also involved. A couple others, fair maintenance is only 26% spent, but a chunk of that is because of capital. If I take out the capital, they're at 63%. They will probably not spend a ton because they're going to be busy doing fair right now. The Office of Conflict, I need to relook at. The budget revision's not in there yet. And then when I go into Parks and Rec, they're 43% spent, but again, that's only through the second week of July, and they're just getting busy. So they'll be spending that money. Appraisal is 40% spent, but again, they've got some big items that are going to be coming through Master's Touch and also their summer school. They're getting ready to go on. Veterans Memorial is only 35% spent, but I think that's because we gave them the money for the building salary, or the building
Windows.
person, and he's not there. So that won't be spent. So they won't spend out their full budget. Noxious weed is only 28%. They haven't bought anything hardly for chemicals, but they were burning through some
Some of last year's.
stockpile. And then juvenile detention is at 83%. Continue to watch that. They're just a little bit above, but probably not anything too dire. Landfill is sitting at 72%, but again, one big ticket item is going to throw that over. The gas system's at 83%. When I looked at fuel for the landfill, they have 11,000 left. But we took that into account when we were going to open the budget for the 1.7, so they should be good to go. And then 911 is at 87%. Other than that, everybody looks good. And if you do not have those reports and want those, just let me know. And I can get those resent to you.
Oh, look.
They look a lot different than the old ones, so forewarning. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I haven't been yet, so.
We're still working on the reports. So that's all I have for those.
Okay.
Good to go.
Motion on that?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the revenue versus expenditure report as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The second item I have for you is in regards to lease query. That is who we opted to go with for our lease tracking. I'm looking up Fred because I haven't told them that yet.
We assumed that was the case.
Okay. There should be 2 documents for you to sign. There's going to be the sales order, and then there should also be the addendum, the original document that was sent. Alan had a few issues with. I should probably get you a clean copy that doesn't have all of the markings on it. So let me, if you would, if you agree with the proposal and following through on that, then I can get you a different document to sign that doesn't have the changes.
Okay.
This will allow us to track up to 100 leases, which I'm afraid we're going to be really close to.
I was going to say, we got to be close to that.
I was optimistic that 65 was high, and I just keep finding more, and anyways, so we'll see. But there's up to 100 leases. The implementation, they'll take all of our lease documents, review them, give the recommendation on how they should be set up. The implementation is now free. They were going to charge us $1,500. That's free. Initially, the maintenance was going to be, I forgot what it was going to be, $5,400, but we got it down to 42.
Yeah.
Yeah,
42 is what I got here.
4,200. Yep, 4,200 a year.
And so what this allows you to do is you plug in all the leases and the terms, and it just kind of helps you do your depreciation, not depreciation, but track all the financials associated with them.
So what it will do is it's going to give us a dashboard so that we can go in and review them at any point in time. It's going to give me my amortization schedules to help me with the notes
Okay.
for the financials. It's going to give me my year-end adjusting entries and anything else we need.
Okay, cool.
And our outside auditors will have a login so that they can go in and
Monitor.
see everything that they might need to see for the audit. Adam reviewed this. He was good with it. It's going to be cloud-based,
Cool,
so it really shouldn't affect him.
cool.
So, and hopefully our auditors like it.
I like it. I like it. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept and sign the lease query agreement as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right. Fred, come on up.
Awesome. I actually compliment you because that's, getting on top of the leases is important because of the new standard that's coming out. So that's a good step that you're taking and looking at those.
Too.
What's that?
I've got a book for Teresa. I'll
Oh,
let you
okay,
take
thanks.
with you.
Thanks.
But I forgot to bring mine, so.
I don't know if I'm going to need my computer or not. I'm going to leave it out unless we get into the, well, actually, I'm going to open it. So yeah, there's plenty of changes happening. Maybe I'll cover some of the past ones. You're already aware of the new one with the lead standard and have started that process. And I know the county's deep into conversion of software, so it sounds like you love the report so far.
We Would you guys like me to run get yours?
I was just gonna text Christy and see if she could bring them up.
Okay. It'll be easier to follow along. I can run get them if you want.
I can run down.
Thank you.
Well, maybe before we jump into that, I'll cover.
Introduce yourself first,
Oh, yes.
please.
So I'm Fred Goodworth, partner with Whiffley, a CPA firm out of our Idaho Falls office. So happy to be here and appreciate the opportunity to that our firms had to do the audit this last year. Provide those audit services to you, and we'll kind of summarize our audit report as well as some of the findings that we found as we went through the audit. So unless there's specific things you'd like to address, I'll kind of start. Maybe I'll start with our required communications that we're required to communicate to those charged with governance, and then I'll hit the highlights of our reports. There's multiple reports this year. There has been 2 in the past. We added 1 this year, so we'll talk about that, and then we can open it up to questions, and we can cover some financial highlights if you'd like.
That'd be great.
But how much time do you want us to spend?
You're on the schedule for 30 minutes, so
As much
Okay.
time as you need.
Okay, 30 minutes should be
somewhere
plenty.
between 5 and 30 minutes.
30 minutes should be plenty, yes. So I'll start with our required communications. Our audit report is dated June 22nd. Our opinion on the audit is a clean opinion, and which is great, which is what you want. So it's an unqualified opinion. The required communications this year, the things that we have to communicate is our responsibilities as auditors, you know, and that's covered in the engagement letter that you've seen previously. We've talked about it previously. We have talked about ethical and independence requirements, information and documents contained in the financial statement, so other information in there. We'll talk about that briefly, plan, timing, and scope, qualitative aspects of the audit, which includes estimates and accounting policies, and any adjustments that we've made or past adjustments. If we find an adjustment that's passed, we talk about that, or uncorrected misstatements. If there's disagreements with management, we're required to report those to you. And then if we're aware that management's consulted with other accountants regarding an audit finding or regarding accounting practices, you know. But I'm happy to report this. We're going to call it a good news letter today, because I'm happy to report there was no issues in any of those areas. So, you know, we did have, you know, our responsibility is to perform the audit. As part of the audit, we look at samples, and we don't examine 100% of nearly anything, but we perform samples and tests of the balances and transactions. And based on that tests and the samples that we look at, we're able to give an opinion on the financials. Happy to report again that that's a clean opinion. The timing went as planned, right? Somewhat. There was a number of challenges this year, and you know, things got delayed a little bit, partially due to some of the new standards that were implemented. GASB 84 was new. You're dealing with the new software and a number of other factors that came up. So, but ultimately, you know, timely report as far as the state requirement to get it out, and as well, we also had to add the single audit this year that was not there in the past. I'm using old terminology. I guess it's a uniform guidance audit now, but it's basically compliance testing, because if you expend more than $750,000 in federal awards, you're required to have a compliance audit as well as a financial statement audit. So that's a new report that we did issue. So with timing, that was one of the reasons that also added to that with the extra work there. Just to reiterate that there are disclosures and significant accounting policies. The only policy that changed was the new standard for how you report some of the funds, which is the GASB 84. And so there was some changes and some presentation changes to what's been in the past, and those were reflected at the beginning of the period and restated, which is a footnote in the financials that we'll talk about too. And then there are also estimates in the financial statement. Some of the big estimates are your depreciation, your pension. There's lots of estimates in your pension liability calculation. There's estimates in your Oh, shoot, what else? There's estimates in the closure costs for your landfill closure costs. So there are some fairly significant estimates involved in those financial statements, but we do look at those estimates and come back to see if there's a reason, if we feel like those are reasonable, which we felt like they were adequate and reasonable. There were a few past adjustments this year, mainly on timing things. They weren't overall significant. We went through those with management. Some of those were cutoff issues with receivables. There were some small differences in property and some other areas that we looked at. And so those were adjustments that we call our past adjustments. So there were a few past adjustments, but nothing that added up to an overall material amount. And the other items I think we talked about, no good news on the other items. So that covers the required communications. We'll jump to the comprehensive annual financial report. So I'm going to focus on the section at page 9. We've already talked about this, but I wanted to just highlight it. So there's a few pages in this that belong to us. The rest belongs to you, and management prepares those, and Christy does a great job in preparing the comprehensive annual financial report. So page 9 and 10 is our opinion, and if you look, or opinions, because we give multiple opinions. We give opinions on each major fund, we give an opinion on the combined non-major funds, and then we give an opinion on the government-wide financial statements. And every one of those opinions is a clean opinion. So that's the news you want to hear. Let's turn back to let's turn back to page 123. It's in the single audit section. Because you're government, we've always had this report. It's a report on your internal control over financial statements, financial reporting, and compliance and other matters based on our audit in accordance with government auditing standards. And this report, if we determine, as a result of our audit procedures and as a result of the walkthroughs and gaining our understanding of internal controls, we report if there's any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. We're not giving an opinion on those, but we do report if they come to our attention. And we're happy to report that there were no significant deficiencies and material weaknesses that came to our attention. So that's also the good news. 124 and 125 is new this year. This is a new opinion. We're actually given a report or an opinion on compliance with each major program, federal program, and internal control over compliance as required by the uniform guidance. So it's basically the law that you have to comply with, that because you spent that. And the big monies that were spent was your, I'm sure obvious, but the 6.4 million of the coronavirus relief funds were spent. And so that was the major program that was tested, and that was the bulk of the monies. Total federal awards was 6.95 million, and 6.4 of that was the coronavirus relief funds. So there are other federal funds, but the one that was tested was that. And I have to report that there was no issues. As we tested those, there was documentation to support that. We look at various compliance areas with the federal grant and that federal award, and have to report that those were all met and there was no deficiencies noted during that audit as well. So there's the good news. It's all good news. I think you guys, have you guys gone through the comprehensive financial report before with, okay.
Ernie's been through a handful.
I've just read through it on my own, what we've had here.
Okay.
So the rest are kind of highlights if you want me to touch on some highlights, but
Sure, that'd be great.
I like to look at the actual basic financial statements, because that's where we live. I guess first on page 21, this is a very high level. 21 and 22 are very high level. This is all the governmental activities combined, and so it really, there's a couple things to look at is your net position. And you can see that both of those are very, appear to be very strong net positions, both for the governmental activities and the business activities. On 21, you have all the assets combined, including your fixed assets, including your pension liabilities, including the pension liability and related costs. So you're sitting in a fairly strong financial position overall. And one of the best things to look at is just kind of over time where that falls out. It's a measure over time, and doesn't mean as much from day to day, but it's because there's so much combined into that it's hard to glean what that really means, other than you want to see, whether there's increases or decreases in that net position. And this year there's definitely positive increases in that net position. So it increased $7.7 million in total. Most of that was in the governmental activities. Then let's look at the major funds I'm going to probably skip past the balance sheets. Let's turn to page 26 and 27 and kind of give you a highlight. And you've probably seen these, but perhaps the thing I focus on is the financial condition of the county. You can look at the funds, and this is where you live and breathe on the day-to-day basis and how you operate. So the general fund is the one you have the most control over, and then there's also, as far as control on where you want to spend the funds, but the rest are usually designated or set aside for specific purposes, or like the justice, the road and bridge, ambulance, and then the grants. But if you look at the fund balance, you can look at the changes in the fund balances. There's been some increases and there's been some decreases in some, like the general fund had a decrease of $2.3 million. The justice fund actually increased by almost $5.2 million. But if you look at the bottom line, fund balance at the end of the year, and just kind of go across the bottom there, everyone's in a positive, all your major funds are in a positive fund balance. And if you look at the percentage of your total expenditures, which I kind of like to do, you can see you're sitting pretty well. Total expenditures for the year, for example, if we just take the general fund, $20.75 million is what was spent. Our fund balance is $17.6 million. So we've got a pretty good reserve going into the year you're in. And you can go across the bottom and just look and see it. Each one of those is the reserves compared to the total expenditures. And that's one of the key things that I like to look at for the financial strength of at a point in time of the county. And so you're definitely sitting in a strong financial position in each one of those major funds. Christy, anything there you want to add?
For Jeff's sake, because he's more dissecting a little bit more, if you go to page 55, you'll see the budget to actual for exactly what Fred's talking about, and then you'll be able to see where we anticipated using reserves and where we didn't.
Great.
So that's the detail of the condensed version of what Fred showed you. So,
Thank you.
and this year, if you look at page 59 and 60, the font is horrible compared to the prior pages, so disregard that. We were in a bit of a rush printing things out.
So, that's a good point to point out. And if you look at on 58, which is the last page of the general fund, since we were talking general fund, the original budget, you'd anticipated spending some of that fund balance in your budget. You actually didn't spend as much as you anticipated as you budgeted, because you budgeted to spend $4.6 million of it. You only spent $2.3 million of it, so there's a positive variance of almost $2.3 million compared to the budget. So even though there was a decrease in your fund balance, it was anticipated, it was budgeted, and you didn't expend as much as was budgeted. So.
And then you can also see all of the funds that make up the general fund. We have to, part of the implementation of GASB 84 was moving fiduciary funds, which were our trusts, into these funds. So all of the trusts that are general fund related are in here. Justice fund related are in justice funds. So when you see that.
What page is that on?
55.
55.
It'll show you, so actually if you go to page 56, you'll see at the bottom, general government trusts. And then you'll see the next page on 58 will show juvenile probation trusts, that kind of thing.
Good, thank you.
It just gives you.
I skimmed through that GASB 84 and I was wondering how that actually played out, so thank you.
GASB 84 made a lot of other changes too, but
Yeah.
that was the easiest.
That was one of the ones.
Yeah, perhaps one of the footnotes that highlights it, if we, let me see if I can find that page really quick.
Footnotes start on 30.
36?
Six. Yeah.
So the footnote that highlights that is on page 40, and the effect on those specific funds, the effect of implementation of GASB 84. So there were some new combining and new reporting that, so it does look a little different if you were to pull your last year's up. But this was the dollar effect overall, so. I don't know that I have, I'm going to keep it shorter. I'm going to just open it up. I think we talked about the highlights. The big change was the GASB 84 and the new reporting, the requirement for the uniform guidance audit, the compliance audit. I think we've covered most of the things that I plan to cover. Is there anything else, any questions you have, commissioners, or Christy, do you have something you want to add? Or Jason?
We usually just say, if you want to look at the MD&A, look at the budget actuals, and look at the notes. That kind of gives you the highlights. If you have questions on anything, holler at me and I can try to help you answer any questions that you may or may not have. The only ones that I would need help with are OPEB. I hate that one. I'm still working on that one. Teresa has to help me a lot on those.
Other post-employment benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Page 54 shows all of the abatements that are given to, like, Amy's Kitchen, Western States, and it shows the tax effect that we have from those. So that's kind of an interesting page. All of this is on the website. If you go under Clerk and Auditor, these financials are under there,
Yeah.
and it's got past ones in there too.
Yeah.
So,
I've looked at those.
yeah. But
The other thing that's interesting, I guess, if we jump back to estimates, and I mentioned on your government-wide that brings everything together, you pull in that pension liability and how big that is through Percy, because you guys participate in Percy. But if on page 51, it's interesting to kind of point out that right now with the current discount rate that was used, you're actually sitting at a pension asset of 407. So Percy's in a pretty good position from a state perspective. But if you look at just a 1% change in that, if the rate increases 1%, that changes to a sizable asset. If it decreases at 1%, the obligation now is $14 million. So just that 1% change in that estimate, you could be sitting at a liability position of $14 million, or you could be sitting at an asset position of $12 million. So 1% change either way is a pretty big swing in that pension liability. The good news for the county is that because it's Percy, they monitor, they manage all that. All you guys have to do is make your contributions, and that's what's reflected in your funds. But on the government-wide, that obligation is required to be reported. So it just kind of highlights the significance of some of those estimates.
and this is the first year we'd ever had an asset.
Yeah.
That was
Pretty-
totally new.
The market was good. The market was good at year end. So the investments were sitting in good position. We'll see where it sits next year. Because the market does affect Percy because of all the investments they have in the market.
Oh,
As long as they can pay your retirement, that's important.
paper I just got from Percy didn't look as good.
But any other questions or anything you'd like us to cover?
No, it's
Comments,
fantastic. Appreciate the work.
We appreciate the opportunity.
It's always good when you go to the doctor and you get a good, clean bill of health.
Yes.
That's what I feel like this is.
Yes.
And we do appreciate Christie and her office.
Team, yeah.
I mean, they work very, very hard. Money's always concerning.
Yes.
Our job would be a lot easier if we didn't have to worry about all that. But thank you,
Yep.
thank you,
Yes,
Christie.
thank you very much. All of you, appreciate it.
How do we do on time? Okay.
Great.
Did fantastic.
Let's go ahead and make a motion to accept that report.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the 2021 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Sheriff?
And please state your name, because I don't think we've seen you for quite a while, so nice to welcome you back.
Good thing, I guess. Sheriff Tony Manu, and I had
Adam McKinney, 911 director in this role.
so the reason I had Adam come up is kind of explain kind of the technical side of this MOU on the FCC WA testing that we applied for. I guess we requested to be a part of. Whether we get selected or not, I think that's still up in the air, but I'm assuming we may get selected for this. So putting it in front of you is more of a kind of a give you an idea that just inform you that it will affect our community as far as it'll touch certain areas that we kind of gauge where that testing. I think right now it's Income, the Income areas where we selected the testing area for this wireless emergency alert. So I guess I'll let Adam kind of explain the more technical and nerdy side, because it's way different. That's not a slam. That's a compliment.
That's a compliment.
For me. So.
Basically, as I read through this is a test that they want to test the broadcast on the cell tower technology. This is broadcast to cell phones that are not necessarily opted into our alert sense. This is broadcast like an Amber Alert system. So basically what we'll do is they will, if they select a test with us, we will select a core group of people from the sheriff's office and possibly from the county to do geographic testing. They'll go to those places at the time. The alerts will go to their phone, and then they'll answer a brief survey question, a couple links on did you get the alert, what time did the alert come in, things like that. Then the next round of testing after that's done is it's possible to open it up to a community-based testing. And if we went to something like that, then we would probably need to pull in our PIO and make it aware to the community. But again, it's not going to be based on a widespread. It won't be an entire community. That they would be aware that these messages were going to come through at a specific time, and then they would be asked to answer a couple of questions based on a little survey to determine the effectiveness of it.
Yeah. So it's more to make you aware that this could happen.
So this looks like it's just a small radius. The initial test is 1.5 square miles. Am
Yeah.
I reading that correctly?
That's right. It's not very large, and we would designate, I think it would ask for 14 people.
14 or 15.
14 or 15 people for the initial test in a 1.5 square mile radius. Yeah. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's utilizing our dispatch center as
So-
the,
It's just time and people, no
Correct.
money.
and
Yeah.
probably a little PIO information
Yeah,
to
look-
the public to let them know this
little
could be
dissemination.
happening.
We got
So-
a great person to help with that.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
in fact,
My question is, how does this impact the alert sense that Wes has got going and all that? Or is this something that down the road could impact that positively or work in conjunction?
So
in conjunction.
number one, I'll tell you that Alert Sense is not necessarily Wes's, it's 911's.
Right.
It goes with the sheriff's dispatch office. Wes would like to utilize the opt-in side of Alert Sense, and that's what him and Kim and the other people have been working to increase people in. There's two sides to that, though.
Okay.
One side is this warning system that also goes with our integrated public alert warning system, we call it IPAWS system. That system stands above and beyond the opt-in. So anybody who's opted into these systems can get reverse 911 notifications to their cell phone that are a step underneath this level of. This is a level of where they will draw a geo-fence around, and then all those cell towers that anybody's connected to, regardless of whether or not they want the message, if they have the Amber Alert or the WEA system on their phone, which most people do, they're going to get that alerting. So those are two different kind of levels. This really doesn't affect the alert sense opt-in per se, but we are still working to increase that utilization. This is the step above that.
I'm still learning about alert sense and all that. So I'm
Yeah,
curious.
and it is two separate systems. Actually, we just got some pretty good information on how our iPause system works. Bannock County is actually designated as the backup to the state comm for iPause. So if the state system, the IOEM, Emergency Management Office, were down, our dispatch is actually the next level for that iPause warning notification system.
So for example, the fire we had out in the Gap area this week, if you had this system in place, you could geo-fence and then send out
Correct.
an amber alert
Yep.
to within that, say, hey, we got a fire, and
That's correct.
away we go.
Yep, absolutely. And as it is written now, the Sheriff's Dispatch Center is the only group that's able to authorize those. That actually falls down under the elected sheriff to his dispatch center, because our collaborative operating group is a subset of the Idaho Office of Emergency Management.
So if, again, just using this weekend's fire, Wes gets that notification, there's a fire, he would alert you and say, hey, send out alert in this area, and away we go with that. So we'd still, Wes would be that point of contact in an emergency, but he would direct communication.
Correct.
Yeah, only the Sheriff's Dispatch Office can make those alerts happen.
Right.
That's
Okay.
correct.
On
Yeah.
that higher level.
On that higher level.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
On the alert sense, the reverse 911 for people who opt in,
Wes can do that himself.
yeah, actually all the
Right.
dispatch centers can. So,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Which is why we're so protective of the higher level of it. And people
Right.
asking, like, certain entities wanting access to it. I know Adam and I discussed it, and we don't think it's a good idea, so.
Yeah, as we're the cog for the IOEM, it's not really, that access has to be vetted. And these municipalities can absolutely apply for that access, to have that access in their PSAPs directly. But as written and currently structured, the iPause system is designated to the sheriff in the county to decide who gets the usage of it, so.
Just want to make sure we didn't have multiple voices going on.
Nope.
at the time of
Well,
that, so
right,
that's-
and that was, if you get too many alerts out there,
People ignore
start ignoring them, so.
Right.
We want to keep that higher level for true, emergencies and disasters that we deem necessary.
So, again, using this weekend as an example, would you use this system that we're talking about today for something like that, or would you stick more with just the alert
Probably
sense?
alert sense for that one, unless it grew into a major state disaster type situation.
Okay.
Well, if the fire
For the
went up the
eyeballs.
hill and stuff, you'd make sure that BlackRock,
Correct.
everybody in that was alerted on it.
Which they can geofence
Yeah,
that. and
they can
all that.
geofence to.
I guess
those
that's why I was just
those
trying to figure out, at
towers.
what level do you go from, okay, alert sense isn't gonna cut it, now we gotta go.
iPods would be like the Yosemite fire.
Okay.
You get something like that, that's a,
Or like Mink Creek when we had the whole place
Charlotte
going.
fire.
Yeah, Charlotte.
Right.
Fire, right.
yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's what this, just to let you aware, because it's gonna affect county communities, so when that does happen, so just so you guys are aware, we'll get something out publicly so they know if we happen to get selected. I'm under the impression they haven't selected us, right?
They have, well, it does, if we're designated as a
Right,
county.
so-
And I would assume if we agree to be a county, they're probably gonna designate us. I think that's how it would work.
So that way you guys aren't in the dark when this happens.
Appreciate it.
So, okay, cool.
And then second.
Let's go ahead and do a motion on this
Okay.
one.
Oh,
Mr.
sorry.
Chair, I make a motion that we approve this memorandum of understanding for the safety testing, should we be selected.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 And Wes is aware of this as well, so he's got a copy of this.
Fantastic.
Then the second item is the retirement on Sergeant Shelton that's retiring, and do you have that in front of you as far as, okay. And awarding his handgun to him.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the retirement distribution of firearm as presented.
And badge, right?
And badge.
And badge.
Yeah, firearm and badge, excuse me.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Awesome. And congratulations on your audit. It's awesome.
Yes.
Good news, and I know I push it with our administration that we want to be fiscally responsible and good stewards with taxpayer money, so congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
While
awesome.
you're here, I just have one question for you.
Okay.
The salvage yard that we put on county property in the back, in your backyard, what's going on there?
We've talked to him.
Okay.
Our detectives are on it. Then the guy that actually moved the stuff is in jail. So as soon as he gets out, he's gonna remove it, so.
Is he working on a plea deal to get out sooner? So he
So yeah, we didn't realize he was in our facility until our detectives went over there to talk to the squatters, I guess you can call them, that are in that. And he said, well, he's in our jail, and so they went back and talked to him. So there's some action.
I drive by it every day, and it bothers me every day I drive by it.
Well, I thought it was the guy next door that was cleaning up that
That's-
property that had put it out there, but it wasn't his. Those aren't his items, so. But yeah.
Well, I know Pacific, they'll come haul anything off you want, but.
Well, and that's what. So I think as soon as he gets out, which is supposed to, well, he was supposed to get out the following week, and then something happened at his court that he's still incarcerated. So yeah, he's aware.
All right, I just, like I said, hadn't seen you, but I see that every day.
Yeah. Oh, we look at it too, like what in the world. So all right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Adam?
Yeah, you're welcome. Good morning again, Adam McKinney, this time as IT Director. Before I mention this Lumen thing, I will just address my 95% budget utilization.
You're fine.
Well, we have, as you guys know, we've been modernizing a lot of stuff, and a lot of this stuff was one-time outlay money for software packages that were not anticipated. $10,000 for Datum Insights, $5,000 for WatchGuard, $5,000 for OnBase Paperclip, $8,000 for the Palo Alto licensing. So this is stuff that's not necessarily that we've indebted ourselves for years and years and years. It's really like, as auditing likes to say, I'm too nice and like to help people with too much of their stuff, but I really was trying to modernize and bring some of this stuff forward. So just so you know, I feel we're still on target. We're not going to go over by any means. We've only got 2 payments of $2,000 left for Nova time for the year, and got a little money left in the parts budget. Otherwise, we're good. So not gonna max that out. And 911 is in great shape. We're not even close on that one. So unlike last year where we bankrupted that one, we're good this year.
Well,
And
we
I was-
appreciate a man with many hats taking care of business.
And I was just reporting on anything that was over the threshold.
Oh.
So I wasn't throwing you under the bus.
No, absolutely. And I just want you to know, we're aware and we're watching it. We're not trying to just, we're just trying, again, it's modernization. Some of this stuff has been years in the coming. You got to buy it, you got to get it updated. And I think we've made leaps and bounds this year. One of the big things I can tell you is we have eliminated all of our Windows Server 2012 and older servers completely. We do not have anything older than Windows Server 2016 now. And even a year ago, we still had 30 plus servers on those older operating systems. So we're modernizing as rapidly as we can. In fact, next week when we meet, I have some news on the 2-factor authentication information for you too. We found a new solution that's considerably less money. We've been testing it for the last couple months, and I think we can implement that at the beginning of next fiscal year with minimum issues and bring. So we're modernizing. We're moving right along.
we just like to see you sweat a little bit.
No worries. I'm trying to keep track of all of it.
Well,
So
you said you were watching and taking care of it. We want you to know that
yes.
you're being watched by others. It's being taken care of.
And that's what I need. I need the double
Every
sets of eyes.
department, not just you.
Absolutely.
It's not my problem child, so we're good.
All right, and so what I brought for you guys this morning is, this is just an amendment to that initial, we had this signed a couple of weeks back. It was the Lumen to change out the SIP trunking on the telephone system. They actually, when they started investigating it, realized it had some wrong addressing. Our trunk lines some of them were slated that they came in at the old jail. They don't. They went back through. There are no budgetary changes, no pricing changes on this. It's just updated addressing. So they've just asked for an updated signature to get this underway. So that's basically it. If you have any questions about it.
Nope, we've approved it before, might as well do it again. So,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the updated contract as presented.
A motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, great.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Next, we have resolution number 2022-62, tax cancellation request.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve resolution 2022-62 as presented.
A motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have a public hearing notice. This is for August 16th.
Zoning map amendment. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the public hearing notice for the zoning map amendment.
A motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have letters and notices, our signature only, tax cancellation request, and a quit claim deed.
I was informed about the quitclaim deed, so that made me chuckle, but I'm happy to sign.
Did you guys all hear about this?
No, what is it?
This is our property over here. If we separate the lots over there,
Where we're gonna do the juvenile.
we
Oh,
get,
yeah.
we only have to have 30, we can have 30% less parking spots.
So we're quitclaiming a section of the lot to ourselves to break it off as an independent parcel to reduce the parking lot requirement.
Yeah, when Daniel brought that to me, it's like, we're quickly for ourselves.
Yep. Yep. So,
I guess that's what they want.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the quitclaim deed as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's clean.
An interesting one.
Yep.
And then there was the tax cancellations.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we sign the tax cancellations as presented.
A motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Alcohol license, Remos.
There is no Remos.
Are they coming back?
I don't know.
I hope so.
Their
Or is it just the facility?
facility's open now. I mean, because the
it-
restaurant that was there is
Gone.
now gone to
Right.
Perkins. This is, it's Remos and Pocatello Incorporated. It's for,
Yeah.
Is it a transfer? When you sign that, can I
Another
look at it?
wine by the drink and bottle, and wine by the bottle.
Just wine?
Mr. Chair,
That's all
I
it has
would make
on
a
it.
recommendation that we sign the alcohol license for Remos and Pocatello with our fingers crossed.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Oh, also, can I have that contract for lease query?
For which one?
Lease query, when you get done?
Yes. That's the one that you was gonna make a new copy of.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Also on the consent agenda, we have certificate of residency approval, salary rate approval forms, minutes for July 11th, 12th, 13th, and 18th, and then BOE minutes for June 28th, 29th, 30th, 1st, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 11th. We don't do anything.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the minutes for,
Consent agenda.
yeah, we'll just do the consent agenda, sorry.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we'll just go ahead and go into the executive session.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we go into executive session under Idaho Code 74-2061F to communicate with legal counsel to discuss legal ramifications and legal options for pending litigation.
Commissioner Moser?